Shelby,
Hey.
hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We are honored to have you. You have some exciting news. You have gone through the gauntlet, and now why don't you introduce yourself and where you're headed and what you're studying?
Well, hello, my name is Shelby Smith, and I will be going to UNCSA in the fall for BFA in acting.
Oh my gosh, I can hear the applause. I can hear the applause.
Thank you.
Um, so cool. We're going to dive into sort of how you got into school.
Mhm.
But we want to learn kind of from the beginning. How did you like? What experience had you had before auditioning for school? What was your pre-audition life like in a short version?
Yeah, sure. So I am a non-traditional student. I spent 2 years at a non-conservatory in Tennessee. That's where I'm from. And I really started, I think, to grow my love and craft for acting there. I was lucky enough to be able to work with a regional theater in Nashville. That was my first professional role and my real first taste of, what it's like to really be doing the work. I was doing a couple of summer programs, and being in that conservatory style program was what made me want to pursue drama school full time. So that's a little bit about my background as an actor. I didn't go to a performing arts high school. I didn't go to a performing arts college. So yeah.
So was That's awesome. And by the way, I love your refreshing background. I'm glad we're outdoors with you today.
Yeah, thank you.
So was your first exposure to acting, like, would you say very recently, like with this 2-year program, or did you have any experience acting prior to that?
I acted in high school. It wasn't professional or anything. I just did my high school theater. Um, I was able to do National Young Arts, which was really cool. And that was kind of my first exposure to being in a room with other artists who were just as passionate as I am about theater, and who were also just working at a super high level. And so I got to do that, but I still kind of didn't know what I was doing, excuse me.
Yeah, totally.
My journey was kind of clumsy, I feel like, just kind of finding my way and gaining things throughout the process of walking into these spaces that I felt really lucky to be in, and just learning and observing from other people. So,
Well, we're always in the room we're meant to be in.
yeah.
So it's funny, sometimes we feel like, how did I get here? I know I've felt that.
Yeah.
But young arts is a good thing to bring up. I also did young arts, but sounds like you go to Miami?
I did get to go.
Wow. So for everyone who doesn't know, do you want to give the 20-second pitch on what young arts is?
I can try. Young Arts, it is 1 week in Miami, Florida, where some of the top artists who have applied across the nation come together and they do this showcase. And it's full of master classes and just getting to collaborate with other artists your age and learning from one another.
That was perfect. It's a scholarship competition. And yeah, she didn't, for those of you who are interested, like, you don't just get to go because you want to go. You have to actually submit a video, right? And then you either get selected or not selected to attend. I was close. I
Yeah.
got a 9. I
Oh,
was honorable mention, which was so cool. But my classmate actually got a 10, and she got to go to Miami. So that was cool. But yeah, like it's just a great scholarship. It's grown every year. We have a good relationship with Young Arts. So that's cool to hear that you got to go there. Very inspiring environment.
yes, it is. I was just so fortunate. I think Young Arts changed the trajectory of my not only desire to be an artist, but like how I was going to get there. I just realized in that moment that what I wanted did exist. And I got to network with some really incredible people who are just like me and helped me along my journey. So, yeah.
So cool. So cool. Now, when you talk about being a non-traditional student, UNCSA, University of North Carolina School of the Arts, for those of you who don't know, was probably talking to you about that, right? Did they ask you anything about this in the interview process? Was there anything that came up as you were talking to them during the auditions about that? Did they have any thoughts? What did you share with them about that?
My audition was actually very short. My interview was like really, really quickly. They didn't ask me many questions about being a non-traditional student, but the campus does have a lot of non-traditional students, and um, I was asking them, and it's a pretty common thing there. Like no one is ostracized for being older than 18 or 19, or not just being fresh out of high school. So I felt supported. I didn't feel like I was different than anyone. And they did ask me why I wanted to come now, but I didn't feel like the odds were set up against me just because I'm coming in a little bit older than most of my class.
That's crucial. Yeah, I'm glad. And actually, you might have seen an old video of ours, not old video, a couple of years ago. Ariel, our client, got into UNCSA, but they were more clear about it with him. They were like, you're older than most of the folks that are going to be in your class. Are you okay with that? And so as long as they make you feel welcome and belong, like we're going to have a great time growing your artistry, then what are we waiting for, right?
Yeah, they did ask me that more extensively in my Carnegie audition, and we
Okay.
talked about that. But again, I just my attitude was a good audition is a good audition. If they want me, then they want me. If they don't, then they don't. I never felt like um, it was something that was going to be a make or break for me.
Take it in, folks. Take notes. This is you're gonna, they say success leaves clues, right? Shelby's dropping clues about her mindset going in. So we're gonna dive deep into this. I want to talk Carnegie. I want to talk all the schools. Maybe we'll go through, if you're open to it, just kind of some academic, like which schools did you apply to?
Sure, yeah. So I applied to, let me see if I can remember. I applied to UNCSA, Juilliard, Carnegie, DePaul, Ithaca, Michigan, Northwestern, and what's the last one? I can't remember. USC, USC. Yeah, there we
Nice. For your bachelor's of fine arts,
go. Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And was there anyone in particular? Let's just talk before the auditions. Like we're talking application materials, or maybe when you were researching the schools. Was there anyone that kind of surprised you in a good, or I guess they're all good because you applied to all of them, but like anyone that stuck out that was like, I wasn't expecting to apply to this one, or I'm super excited about this one even more than I originally was?
Yeah, I was not expecting to apply to Ithaca or USC, but particularly Ithaca, it wasn't on my radar. And I was having a session with Brandon, and he told me, he was like, your school list is too few. You need at least two more schools, just make it a solid eight. And so I applied to Ithaca on the last day. And I ended up getting in, but that application was rushed. I had no, you know, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, it's funny how like sometimes people think they have to get it all in up front, and then other people are like, no, I'm just gonna wait till the last minute and then I'll like totally, hit the accelerator. Either one can result in a positive or a negative outcome. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you always just have to be you. Like whatever the circumstances you're in, you just gotta do your best, and
Yeah.
whatever happens, happens. Sounds like you kind of experienced both of those spectrums.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and my application was already pretty much fully fleshed. It wasn't like I was writing my artistic statement on the last day of when it was due. It was rushed because I just had to submit materials immediately.
Yeah. So let me get your like approach with application materials. When the applications opened, right? You have a couple months until the actual deadline. Where did you fall in the sort of I guess preparation with that? How quick did you submit your application?
Oh, I felt like my process was so slow. I really took my time. I just wanted to make sure that everything that I did represented who I am well. Some people I know submitted in like August because they wanted that free time. I think that's great. That was not my situation. I didn't start until August because I was doing some pretty rigorous summer programs and I couldn't divide my focus. So I came back home and I started filling it out in August. And some of them, like Ithaca, I didn't submit till the day before, but most of them I had a goal of sending in around the 1st of November. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Some people ask like, well, if I submit mine earlier, Does that mean I'll have, a better audition slot? Whatever better means, like earlier or later. And we've talked to some of the schools. We have a great relationship with all these schools, and really it's just by the deadline.
Yeah, it's
So
just by the deadline.
just by the deadline. So what's most important is everyone who's listening, what Shelby said, which is that she cares mostly about, do I represent myself well? In other words, honestly, and if somebody were to read this who doesn't know me, are they going to get a feel for me?
Yeah.
How did you feel that the materials represented you well? Like, what are some of the things you really focused on putting forward?
I focused on not trying to impress people, especially in my artistic statement. And that's why it took me such a long time to write, because you could tell even in my writing, it wasn't authentic. It wasn't clear. And the reason why it wasn't clear is because I wasn't speaking from the heart. So I really took some time to just sit down with myself and journal about it, do voice diaries, talk to friends about why I love acting so much, what it means to me, what were my first influences as an actor, who were my first influences, and just really write about that and just be true to who I am and my story. Yeah.
That's genius. Simple, but not necessarily easy, right?
Um,
Um, Now you say you used friends and everything. Like, did you have others who were close to you that were also auditioning, or were you using mentors? Kind of who were you trusting in this process?
yes. Well, I definitely trusted my coaches, and you guys were still getting to know me, of course, but um, I just wanted to crack down on, or I just wanted to be able to be as honest as possible. So talking to people who know what candor looks like, it was important to me. And then also talking about friends who had a couple of friends who were auditioning for drama school. So having that community to share the process of what it was like was important for me. But also from these programs I did, I had friends who already went through the process. And so they were able to share some advice with me about how to be authentic, and just talking to people who knew me well. And
Mhm.
when they would read my writing, they would be like, that's not you. So that was pretty important for me.
That is awesome. That is great. Yeah. It always takes some sort of supportive environment to get into drama school. It's rare that someone's just going to be in some sort of single lane with no one helping. So yeah, great. All right. So were you doing those application materials while you were working on your pieces, or did you kind of like submit that stuff and then begin the work on your pieces? How was the flow with all of that?
Yeah, I was doing my application materials while I was working on pieces, which was definitely a lot to maintain with a life outside of applying to drama school. Um, so I just had to make time each day, an hour and a half. If I had 10 minutes to give, then that's what I would give. But every
Mhm.
day I would just work on my essay, or literally just fill out the information about what's my name, where am I from, fill out my Common App, things like that, and then set aside other time to work on my monologues.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of two different hats, right? It feels like your imagination is like, and your impulses and all of the kind of creative juices are flowing with one hat. And then the other hat is like making sure you're organized by the deadline. But there's also still a lot of honesty that you have to bring forward. But yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult. If I could redo it, or if I could just give advice, I would say get one done first, and I would suggest doing the application first so you can focus on the material, because that was a lot to handle. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's hard because sometimes, we're so passionate about the ultimate goal of getting in that, the summer before or even the spring, we're already kind of excited about the pieces we're doing and all that stuff. But I think what you're saying is like dedicate yourself to that application process. Don't shortchange that, because obviously they're not going to be able to process your whole application unless you submit that properly. All right, let's get into the good stuff.
Okay.
So let's talk about your pieces. Again, kind of lay out, if you would, your pieces. What pieces did you do? What pieces did you have prepared?
Sure. So I did four pieces. I did Taylor from Stick Fly by Lydia R. Diamond. I did Cunningham from The Last Days of Judas Iscariot by Stephen Andrew Girgis. I did Cressida from Troilus and Cressida by William Shakespeare. And then I had Isabella from Measure for Measure in my back pocket, but I never used that one. So yeah.
Very cool. 4 pieces. Did you ever have any other pieces that maybe fell away before you auditioned? Tell us about a couple of those. Which ones did you have, and how long did you have them before they fell away?
Yeah, I had a piece from King Lear, Cordelia. Yes, that was just not, it was just not working. And then I also had Shanita from Skeleton Crew by Dominique Morisseau. And I remember working in a session with Stacy, and she was like, this is just not working. It was just not my style. I didn't fit it very well. And it was clear also that I was just not very passionate about the piece. I think I chose it just to have a fourth piece, which is never a great idea. And she could see it. So it made me search for one that was a better fit.
That's great. I'm so glad you said that, because I also had the same thing where, like, I had this piece, kind of going into the preparation process that I really liked. But it just, I tried to work on it, maybe for a month or two with my coach and all that stuff. And like, it just wasn't popping like the others. The inspiration wasn't as full, or for whatever reason, it wasn't the right fit. And ultimately I was like, well, we could get through it. We could get through it. And ultimately it was just like, no, it's just stale, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's stale. So that's good that you listened to that. Some people will not express that concern, or they may not have a coach who kind of brings forward that concern. But you want to always be doing pieces that, yeah, you are inspired by and that you feel is a good fit. Um, but we always need kind of the third eye to make sure that it's reading.
yeah,
Um, and also take note, everyone, from what she said too, like, just because it may not have been what ultimately she did, the piece she ultimately did, she still memorized it, prepared it, got coaching on it. It was only throughout the process of moving forward with it that she realized maybe this is going to have to fall away, right?
right, right.
So you replaced it with which one?
I think I replaced it with Taylor from Stick Fly. I had watched a reading of Stick Fly a while ago, and right after I figured out that it wasn't working, that reading popped into my brain, and I read Stick Fly and realized how much I resonated with Taylor, and it just seemed like a really great match. So
That's great. And what I'm hearing and also feeling from you is that you're so present. You're like very like, hey, look, I'm giving it my best, and maybe I need to switch up my pieces. Okay. And you're letting your mind go, well, what else is going to fill the hole? Okay, maybe this, right? You didn't necessarily plan this whole thing. There's a lot of things about this process we don't plan, right? But let me ask you, on a spectrum of like super planner to like fly by the seat of your pants, where are you on that spectrum in general?
I'm very much super planner. I want to know everything now, which that was something that we continued to work on throughout my sessions. And my best auditions, like, I think my best audition actually was my Carnegie audition, because that was the day that I decided to just throw everything out the window and surrender and just be in the moment. So I'm definitely super, super planner. And I had to learn all throughout my journey to just surrender to what my instincts are telling me.
That's so great. That's so amazing. All right. So you have these pieces, you're kind of working on them. And well, I guess let's talk about that. Like, when you're in your sessions and when you're kind of working on the notes and everything, was there a moment in any of the pieces where you really felt like a light bulb was going off, where you really felt like, I'm taking my artistry to another level here, I'm doing some of my best work? Was there a note that you got from a coach, or maybe a moment you had in your own rehearsals where you're feeling like, I'm taking this to the next level?
I don't know if this was a next level moment, but it was a light bulb moment for me. And it was a note from Stacy, actually. We were doing, I think it was definitely my Troilus and Cressida monologue. And it's Cressida's monologue to Troilus, hard to seem one, but I was one, my lord. It's this expression of love, and she's very indecisive and she's very instinctual. It's very in the moment. It's not something you can be planned for. And I was trying to do it in a very planned way. I was trying to show that I had done the text work. I was working from a place of vanity almost. And she just stopped and she said, "You know, I really do think that you could get into any school. But the issue is that in the audition room, they're going to try and shake you, and you won't allow yourself to be shaken." And that was just a really revelatory moment for me that I think about often, that I'm really grateful that she was candid with me about. And that's kind of just something I've taken into my life as well. And the next time I came back and we practiced that piece again, it was completely different because I just decided to not hold back and jump all in. And that kind of attitude just really serviced me in a positive way for the further progression of my monologues.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and did you find, we'll get into it more in detail later, but did you find that the schools offered you like direction and tried to shake you up a little bit, shake up the pieces and work with them a little bit?
Some of them did, and some of them didn't. I think it depended on honestly how much time they had, how many people were there, and honestly, if they wanted to bring out more of you, maybe they didn't really get a sense of who you were through your pieces, who you are through your pieces, excuse me. So maybe they just wanted to do some exercises to bring out your personality, see what you can do. Some of them did, some of them didn't. So
Yeah, yeah. No, it's just about being in the moment, right? And being able to play, which
yeah,
is sounds like you in that moment let yourself go. You know what? I think I just have to show up and play.
yeah.
You know? It's hard because one of the most common things, even when I was at Juilliard, everybody almost in our first year, second year, as we were doing scene work and really kind of working through some of our own habits, right? Planners, 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 planners. Because naturally, you're a good storyteller,
Mm.
right? You have instincts about what this is when you read it. And so you kind of want to go do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's about, living through it rather than trying to project what your idea of it is. And it's a hard decision.
absolutely. Yeah, it's so difficult. And the art of surrender is so vulnerable, but when you tap into your vulnerability, that's when your humanity actually begins to show. And so that was something that I had to continue to learn because I also had these idea for my pieces of this is how it's supposed to look and this is the part of my talent I want to show. And the moment you do that, you make it about yourself and not about the story that you're trying to tell or the people that you're trying to connect with. So I really had to break out of that box of an idea of how something is supposed to be because it was limiting me in a massive way creatively. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, well, all right. So you're clearly developing as an artist, right? Throughout this process. This is not a thing where you're like, okay, I've already reached where I'm going to be, and now I'm just going to show that to the schools. No, this is about, I get to take these pieces and continue to become a better actor with the coaching and with this process, right? And did you feel like when you got into the auditions that this was like on a spectrum of like this is a show and a presentation and this is like a workshop rehearsal, where were you in between those when you kind of auditioned for these schools, or how did it
Um, I think it got better as time went on. Auditioning is such a jarring experience because you can practice and practice and practice, but I don't really know if anything can actually just prepare you for being in the room. And that's when you just have to trust the work that you've done and surrender. So when I started, it definitely felt like a performance. It felt like a show because I was so in my head. But as I continued and knew more of what to expect and how things were going to go, I could start to clear my mind and just focus on the work.
nice, nice. All right, so let's get into it. Where did you audition, what city, and did you lay out all your schools in 1 week? How did it all work schedule wise for you?
Yeah, I laid out my schools like over the course of a month and a half, I auditioned for UNCSA in person because it's only a 6-hour drive. I auditioned for the bulk of my schools in New York because they were in Ripley Greer Studios, and I could just do like, okay, the 28th and the 29th and the 30th and just knock them out. So I would either do on campus, or if they were all in the same city at the same time, like unifieds, then I would just knock it out. Yeah.
Nice. So they're all clustered together pretty much, and you're going through your audition week or whatever it is. Do you remember which one was first?
My UNCSA audition was first.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not expect that. So like usually, there's some warm up, you have to kind of get through some of the fear or some of the whatever, the jitteriness, but not you.
Well,
Tell me about what happened. So you walked in, how did it go? Walk us through each moment.
I was a mix of nervous and oddly very calm. I walked in and I felt like I was home.
Wow.
But Brandon had given me the advice not to audition for one of my top schools first. And I was like, well, too late. So, I walked in, I did my pieces. I felt like I was performing. I thought it was horrible. They didn't give me any feedback. And then I sat down to do my interview, and it was like 3 minutes long.
Oh my
I got
God.
up and I left, and it was a blur. It was so quick. I wasn't prepared. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's so funny. Okay. So many things are running through my head right now. I love it. So that was one day. You basically did your initial audition, and then they invited you to sit down and talk, but it was a quick conversation. Do you remember anything that they asked? Main questions they asked?
Yes, they asked why did I want to go there. They asked what I'm looking for in the program. They asked why I wanted to be an actor. And Scott, he was looking through my resume, and he noticed that I had done a summer program with Vada, and he asked me about that. And I had worked on Irina at the time from Three Sisters, and he was asking me what I had learned from that role. And they also asked me what is my weakness as an artist? What's something that I think I can work on? So yeah, those are the questions that I remember.
Did you feel, not that you like pre-prepared answers, but like when you're asked about these things, did you feel like comfortable in sharing honestly?
I did. I just don't find any use anymore in being inauthentic or trying to like act professional and sturdy, because that's not me, and they can see through that, and I knew that they could see through that. And so I just felt that it was more important to be honest and be where I was in the moment. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and also it helps when you put in a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know,
You'd be surprised how much how much your subconscious knows when you have really thoroughly done the work and thought through these things and just put so much time and effort in your pieces.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you got this impression, but we know a lot of faculty members, and kind of they're not looking for a right answer. They're looking to see, does this person have a good amount of self-awareness? Does this person have a passion for the craft, and how do they see themselves in acting over time? And like, do they know about their strengths and weaknesses? Like, it's not that they're looking for like, oh, she said the right thing. It's not about that, right? It's about being honest.
Yes, exactly. And something I had to constantly remind myself of as well. I put a lot of pressure on myself as someone who is not fresh out of high school to be like more developed than my peers, and
Mm,
to have all the answers and to be correct. And I don't know if someone else is doing that, but I just want to say that they're not expecting that of you. And it took me a long time to accept the fact that they know you're not fully developed. That's why you're going to school. But I was really hard on myself at the time. So if I could do a redo, I wouldn't do that.
yeah, it's totally natural, totally human, but you're right. You're exactly right. All right. So, geez, North Carolina, done.
Done. Yeah.
And then you started, what is that, when you traveled to go to the other auditions?
Yes, and then I did Juilliard, Carnegie, Ithaca, and then I did.
You just put all the heavy hitters up front.
I
Look at
just did.
let's do this, y'all.
I don't know, and it was really. I'm looking back. I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. I just did it, and then I did DePaul, and then Northwestern. I submitted online, and then I did. Oh, and I did Michigan, and then I did USC.
Now, we don't have to go through every single one, but like, what I would love to hear about a couple of them. Like, what happened? Was there any moments that surprised you throughout the
Yeah,
process?
yeah. I actually want to talk about my Carnegie audition because I feel like that was the best audition I have ever had. It was just so fresh, and it was like an outpouring of my heart almost. I was feeling really raw and vulnerable and just really disappointed because I had had my Juilliard audition the day prior and I did not get a call back. And I was really expecting to get a call back. So I was honestly very hurt. And I woke up and I was just in this mood that I couldn't get myself out of. And usually I would try and reject that feeling and put on a face and, you know, be professional. But I don't, my instinct told me not to do that day. And I walked in and I was really honest. And both of my pieces were like this unraveling. And it was just this beautiful moment that I was sharing with those who were auditioning with me. And we just had a really honest conversation about who I am, why I wanted to be an actor, why I love the art so much. I cried about how badly I wanted to go to drama school. It was just very, I was so dramatic, but it was just very, very heartfelt. And I learned a really important lesson about, this theme of authenticity, being where you are, not hiding. I was so playful. They asked me to do this movement exercise in my Shakespeare, my Cressida monologue, and I was like rolling on the floor and like shouting, and I was so expressive, and that's not me in my daily life. And the freedom I gained from being so impulsive was a huge lesson and surprise for me.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Carnegie is a top school for a reason. They have an incredible environment and faculty, and just the artists are so inspiring there. So I'm so glad. I mean, you clearly just were able to enjoy that for that audition, you
Yeah.
know? Now, at the end of all these auditions, you obviously don't get an official acceptance, right? You have to have the waiting period after you do all that. So how were you during the waiting period?
I was really anxious. I had taken this huge leap of faith. I left my previous school. I hadn't planned to, and I left, took a gap year, applied to drama school, and I was like, this is the moment that I've been working for almost a literal year towards. And so I was super anxious that I wouldn't be accepted. I was anxious that I possibly wouldn't get the financial aid that I needed. And everything ended up working out in a way that I couldn't have even imagined. But I was just so nervous. It was all I could think about from day to day. Who's going to accept me? Who's going to call? When am I going to get that call, that email?
And so how was it? Was it a call? Was it an email? What was the moment? Where were you?
I was in my room. No, I was walking out of work, actually, when UNCSA called me, and I was like, hello? I was in a parking garage in my car. And Quinn was like, is this Shelby? And I was like, yes. He was like, this is Quinn Gordon from University of North Carolina School of the Arts. Congratulations, you've been accepted. And I was like, really? And he was like, yes. And I was just overjoyed. Most of my calls happened in the car, which is weird. Um, I was just like overjoyed and taken aback with such immense gratitude in this moment that my hard work paid off and that my dreams are starting to come to fruition. So,
So cool, so cool. And it's such a good reminder that even folks who get into these top schools don't know they're getting in. A lot of people, have looked at me since I got into Juilliard and be like, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? And, I didn't know I was going to get called back. I didn't know I was going to get in, right? You just go through the process in good faith that I'm just going to commit to the work. And that sounds like what you did. It doesn't mean that it was easy or smooth, or you have these plans and then they get jumbled, and then you just kind of got to stay present and do the best you can, give your gift. But then when you get accepted, you're just like, oh my God.
yeah, yeah. When I got accepted, I was like, that feeling inside of me that I had the potential, I have the potential to do this and to be great at it. To have that affirmed was just such a sweet and joyous feeling that I'm very grateful for. So
Yeah, it is a good feeling. It is a very good feeling. But it's interesting. You'll meet your classmates. I'm sure you've already met some of them. You know, a lot of my classmates, it wasn't their first time auditioning. And I just wanted to highlight that like it was their second go around, or some of them, it was their third go around. And it was an interesting conversation to have with them. Some of them shared more openly about their process the first go around when they got rejected and stuff. Like, yes, it does feel good to get into these schools, obviously. But just because you don't get accepted to a school or anything, that does not mean you are a bad actor. It doesn't mean you shouldn't continue growing as an artist. It should not, take away from your journey. There's nobody at any of these top schools who have like the magic wand of who's good and who's not, right? It's just that, in this time and in this moment, based on the audition you shared, right, we feel this is a good fit, and if you do too, let's go train together. So anyway, did you feel that way about some of the other schools? Obviously you had great results. There was another mix of different types of results. How did it go for you with the other ones?
um my how did it go for me, like in terms of my acceptances?
Well, I love how you talked about Juilliard, in that, hey, that's not the result I wanted. How do I bounce back? I mean, you clearly use it as fuel,
Mhm.
right? Did you feel like you were able to do that? I don't know. I guess what I'm asking is, was that conscious on your part?
um I'll say yes. I think I'm naturally just very reflective and very introspective. And like when I did my audition for UNCSA and I felt like I was performing, I went and I wrote down, why did I feel that way? And why did I not feel that my pieces were at the level that I think that I should be? And what can I do with that awareness going in next time? And what I learned from my Carnegie audition, I took into my Ithaca audition. And what I learned from Ithaca, I took into
Okay.
so forth. Yeah. So it's just a process of, it's more than just utilizing this as an opportunity to get into drama school. I'm also just utilizing this as an opportunity to become a better actor.
Wow. Bars. Should I just write that down right here, right now? No, that's great. Well, geez, what a journey.
Yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah.
So, like, as you reflect back on the whole thing and where you are now here in the summer before your first semester, like, what would you tell someone who's just in the summer now going into the fall of their like preparation journey? What do you think they need to be aware of as they move forward?
I would say that hard work is important. Don't overdo it. I think there were times when I overdid it, and it definitely showed up in my pieces. Leave room for inspiration, but also take joy in the journey. Not everybody that is rejected from a school necessarily is a bad actor. I think that things happen when they need to happen, in the way that they need to happen. And I just urge people to take joy in the journey, because regardless of whether or not you are accepted or rejected from one of the schools on your list, you don't want to look back over the last 8 or 9 months of preparation with sorrow. There is an option and an opportunity for you to enjoy the nature of the work. You don't have to be at a 10 all the time, you know? So I think that's just something that I would say, you know, work really hard, but also take joy in the journey. Don't compare yourself to others. Choose pieces that speak to you. Don't do like what I did with my Shanita monologue and just, top 10 monologues on the internet, Um, choose something that you really feel you are connected with and that says a lot about who you are. Because if you do that, you will show. Just like be true to yourself, remain authentic, and your journey will work out regardless of how it unfolds in the next year.
That's so well said. So well said. And I agree because what you just finished with, which is like your journey will work out no matter what. Like there's an element of like magic, and some of you guys who have listened to our other videos, I talk about this. Like I've noticed in a lot of our journeys, that there's an element of like personal work, and then also like work we don't have a lot of control over, whether it's cosmic or whatever you want to believe in. Like there's a magic that, and even if you quote unquote make mistakes, like if you forget your lines in that audition, or if you do your school first, if it's the first school you audition for, which is not necessarily recommended, it's still going to work out because you're dancing with higher power.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you talked about University of North Carolina feeling like home when you walked in. And look, if you're listening to this, don't like be consciously looking for a school that feels like home. It's not like what Shelby did. It's just a feeling that came over, and just something that occurred, right, for you. But it is funny how, like, if you just put in the work in good faith and you just pour yourself into the process the best you can, and you invest, your whole self, somehow, some way, it just works out as it should, right?
Yes. And yes, I'm so glad you said that. And I want to add to it just by saying that remember that the goal is not merely just to go to drama school, but the goal is to be an actor. There are many avenues outside of drama school to do that if that's what you really want to do. So if results don't work out favorably the first time, like you mentioned, there are plenty of people who have done this the second time. And just like remember your priorities, remember what you're working towards. It's not just to go to a 4-year university, it's not just to have that sort of prestige and acclaim on a degree behind your name. It's to be an actor. So
You are wise. You are
thanks.
wise. Well, this has been so fun. Has this been helpful? Is there anything else before we wrap?
No, I'm really grateful to this network. I really needed guidance throughout my journey, and you guys provided more than enough. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to share my story and my heart, and I hope it helps somebody.
Oh my gosh, it has already, and it will continue to. Thank you very much for your time, Shelby. We're excited for you. Go and continue to grow. We will be here for you, and we can't wait to hear more.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, talk soon.